Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday show. I'm Hammer, and I'm joined by my two favorite Wednesday show hosts, Terry DeMantis.
Hello.
And Jen T. Maxey.
Hello.
How you doing, Terry?
Pretty good. I got an email this morning saying that they shipped my new computer, so I should have it, I'm guessing, sometime early next week.
Sweet.
Oh, that's good.
How you doing, Jen?
I'm good.
I had DoorDash today.
Ooh, what'd you get?
I got a Wendy's double cheeseburger and a baked potato.
You stole food from this Wendy lady? That's not very nice.
With nothing on it. No cheese, no butter, just a plain baked potato. Because I like the taste of the baked potato itself. It's great to have all the other things that change its taste. But I like just the taste of a plain baked potato. I think that's the best taste of all. Because then you get a cheese that you don't like, or they put too much butter on, and you don't enjoy it. But you can't mess up a plain baked potato. How can you do anything? You can't do anything wrong with that.
I do tend to enjoy. I mean, bland sounds insulting, but I mean it in the best possible way. The bland food. Like if I get a steak, I don't want anything elaborate done to it. Just cook it properly, and then I'll eat it as it is. You don't need to put sauce on it or anything. I'll just eat the steak as it is.
Yeah.
Or if anything, put it on the side, so that way you can decide if you like it.
There you go. Yeah,
I'm kind of a butter on a baked potato kind of person. So if I have a little butter on the side, I can put it on as much as I want.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
But I'm just saying, if you didn't, if you just gave me a steak that was cooked properly, but otherwise no sauce or additional flavorings, I'd eat it and enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. That's why I like places like Steak and Ale, because they make just the steak. But if you go to Outback, they put seasoning on it, like a pepper seasoning on their steak, and I'm like, I don't want that. I just want just steak by itself is fine. I don't need anything else.
No, I agree.
Nothing against Outback. They're Australian, I know, but
they really sorry. I keep doing that to you, Terry.
I'm pretty sure Outback is not actually Australian.
No, it's meant to be based off a franchise, but I would think that they would put peppercorn steak on there, because that is a thing. You should have the option of just a steak, not with because peppercorn, it's supposed to enhance the flavor, but that's if you want that.
Outback also puts a weight on top of the steak to make it cook faster. Did you know that?
I did not.
You can ask them no weight, meaning not that you want to wait for the food, but you don't want them to put a weight on top of the steak to cook it faster. Just let it cook normally. I don't have a problem with the extra time.
So ironically, if you say no wait, you actually will have to wait.
Yeah.
I also in a weird way, I kind of get why some people go with a rare to a blue rare steak. And it's because I find that a lot of times if you ask for a rare, they'll cook that first, because the blue rare is quick. It really isn't meant to last very long on the grill. So when you present it to someone who's going to eat it, it's still supposed to taste hot.
Yeah. Well, I have to answer something from Keyberdam real quick. Oh. Hammer, are you going to pin the GoFundMe? In the YouTube stream, it is already pinned. I don't know how to do it in Rumble. I don't know how to edit.
No, I think what she means is you can actually pin a specific comment so that it shows up at the top.
You mean in chat?
Yeah. Pin it to the top of chat is what she's talking about.
Yeah.
Because as I said to it, I can see you've added it to the description, but
so a moderator can't pin things?
Let's see.
I just pinned it, but
there it is. Yeah, you've done it.
I guess moderators can't do that. It has to be the channel owner.
I'm pretty sure, because I couldn't do it.
Yeah, no, it's pinned up there. Thank you, Keyberdam, for pointing that out. Speaking of chat, why don't we acknowledge everybody who's shown up for chat? Jen, you want to start?
Sure. Let me go back up, and we start actually with W. Acosta. He got there before you did. And we got our Terry, and we got Rotten Corpse, and we got Keyberdam, and we got Jack, and we got Casual, we got Mash.
Hey, Mash.
We got And yeah, I think that's actually it.
Terry?
Okay, so over on the Rumble, we've got theonetonhammer. He sounds like a nice guy. We should have him on sometime.
And he's got you fooled.
Tier Alexander, Cynic, me, Jack Gunsky. It seems like Johnny, and then JB. Kividen dropped by. And then is that everyone? Green Badger, and I think that's it. And then Cannibalistic Wizard right at the end.
Awesome. Of course, more people will stop by as the night goes on. Let me go ahead and go with the topics real quick, and then we'll decide what we want to talk about. The three topics tonight are hacked, gravely, and beheading. Hacked is a warning from Chris Ray. I think that's his name. His first name is Chris Ray.
I was so hoping you were going to say gun after that.
Chris Ray, go ahead. Who's in Congress fear-mongering about the potential for Chinese hackers in this election cycle.
Uh-huh.
China specifically said, we're not going to be involved in this at all. And then he comes out and says, China's going to hack us. So there's been some controversy that he's just fear-mongering. If you look at, even on CNN, they mentioned it. Gravely is about a U.S. battleship called the USS Gravely, who was attacked by Houthis and was able to ward off the attack last minute. Generally, they have an 8-mile defensive perimeter, and they have weapons to keep from being attacked within that perimeter. Those weapons failed. So a backup system, which has a 1-mile shield around the ship, ended up destroying the incoming Houthi missile. Yeah, well, so that's a lot of balls. Houthis going after our battleships, man.
I'll say
that's a lot of balls. And finally, beheading. A man in Pennsylvania decapitates his father live on YouTube, and the video stays up for 5 hours.
Yeah, I saw that this morning, or at least heard about it. Sorry.
Yeah. The twist here, the reason I'm mentioning it is this happened in Levittown, Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Guess where I was born?
France.
Yeah.
Levittown, Pennsylvania. So this is in my hometown that this happened. So that's a little like, the fuck? Levittown's like so bland, middle of the road, area. There's nobody there. There's no crime in Levittown. There's nothing. And here's this guy chopping off somebody's head. It's like I'm afraid to go home, Not that I have a place there anymore, but it is where I grew up. I didn't leave there until I was 20.
And Cannibalistic Wizard says, didn't Uncle Adolf, who did nothing wrong, say he wouldn't invade? And for YouTube's benefit, I firmly believe that he does in fact have an uncle whose name is Adolf. Very unfortunate name. And he did promise someone that he wouldn't invade and then broke that promise. But it is not the Adolf that YouTube is thinking of. Have no fear.
I mean, if anybody's going to lie, it's going to be China, and they're going to lie to Biden.
Yeah. Look, you know what? I actually disagree. They don't need to lie to Biden. They could say, hey, dummy, we're going to hack you. And he'd go, potato.
Yeah, absolutely. He wouldn't dare do that to Trump, though.
Oh, fuck no. If they do that to Trump, then they become a radioactive crater in the ground. They don't want to do that.
That reminds me, what are they going to do about this Houthi thing? Because you can't get away with attacking one of our battleships. I mean, that's a blatant war crime going after one of our military vessels.
If it was an actual person that you had as a president, then I would agree with you. But I really have that little faith in Biden, I'm afraid.
Well, there's people on both sides of the argument. People are like, don't start another war. We're already involved in 2 wars. Don't start another war, blah, 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 blah. And then there's people who are like...
If you're starting another war, you'd be defending yourself. If they've attacked you first, then I don't have a problem with you retaliating.
There's a lot of people in Congress who are saying, don't make the situation worse. Don't get Iran directly involved.
Look, there may be concerns with regards to like diplomacy, but just on an ethical front, if they've attacked you, you absolutely have a right to retaliate. Now, there may be reasons why you don't want to retaliate. It may end up being more judicious not to, but if you decided to, I don't have the slightest problem with that.
We've already retaliated to some extent because the Houthis were shooting at other people, not just us. But now they're shooting at us too. So, I mean, we've already attacked southern Yemen, which is where the Houthis are, and blown up a lot of their assets. Apparently not enough to stop them from attacking. But I don't know if anybody's noticed, but if you try to order something through Amazon, it's now taking 5, 6, 7 days. Because they can't get goods through the Red Sea, which is what the Houthis are doing. They're making sure that shipping in the Red Sea is dangerous. So a lot of companies are not shipping through the Red Sea anymore. So it's taking a lot longer to get here.
And Frosted says we need to punish Houthi and the blowfish, which I think is quite good.
Yeah, we're just going after Houthi instead of the blowfish too.
Yeah.
That's been the ongoing joke. I really think that that we're kind of in a no-win scenario here. I hate to invoke Star Trek, but that's kind of what it feels like here, is that if you don't attack, then you show weakness. And the Houthis want to see that. They want the world to see that. But if you do attack, now you're warmongers. And Iran...
I draw a very distinct line between retaliation, if like they've attacked you first, and then you picking a fight. So if out of nowhere the US said, you know what, fuck it, let's just bomb Iran. Okay, now I have a problem with that. If Iran attacks you and then you're like, oh, let's nuke the fuckers into the Stone Age. Hey, I mean, they started it.
But that's kind of what's going on with Israel and Hamas right now. Yeah. Is that Israel is defending themselves, and what is everybody doing? Oh, we need the peace treaty. Oh, stop the genocide. Blah 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 blah. So
I have zero problem with Israel defending themselves either.
I'm not sure if I should say this, but I have the problem with Israel taking their time. I think they should get it over with. If they're gonna be accused of genocide, if they're going to be accused of it, then that opens the door to doing what they need to do to make sure things get taken care of in a timely manner.
I mean, I'm not going to pretend to be some sort of military strategist, but yeah, I mean, if you've been attacked, it's self-defense. I have no problem if someone attacks you and you kill them in the process of defending yourself. I don't think that's a problem. That's the Kyle Rittenhouse situation. I don't think he did anything wrong.
Yeah.
In the same way, on a country level, if Iran attacks you and then you attack them back, that's fine. You didn't start the fight; they did.
Yeah. Cannibalistic Wizard says on Rumble, find a Houthi supply depot and drop a Moab on it. Yeah, I mean, you can't be accused of a nuclear attack if you use a Moab because that's a non-nuclear weapon. But it is the largest conventional weapon made on the planet.
Yeah.
So it's still not nuclear, but it's pretty fucking close.
It's also that Iran has been sticking their noses into this for a lot longer than just with what they did. Like we've all heard stories that they are the ones funneling weapons to Hamas. They are the ones funneling money to Hamas. They are supporting that. So how have they not been called out by the UN in the first place, if that's the case?
And Hezbollah and they're financing all of the terror in the area.
And that's exactly what I mean. Like I limited myself to that just because that list is so freaking long. Yeah. Like at what point do you not call out the problem? And everyone around is saying it too. Like all the other countries around are saying that too. They're like, how do we else spell it out to you? And it's why they're not letting them in. And it's a never-ending problem that I don't doubt is causing suffering. And this is why I don't want to be involved in it in the first place, is because the people in charge aren't being honest. And the dumb people that they've got shouting all the time, they're idiots. They don't know what they're talking about either. And it's causing problems for probably innocent people more than we would be. It's frustrating.
It is very frustrating just sitting here discussing it. I'm like, what do you do? What do you do? Do you not do something? Then you're a coward. If you do something, then you're the aggressor. It's like, you can't win. You can't win. I'm much more of a somebody who will take matters into my own hand. Probably do something very wrong. So I'm not going to say anything more than that, but I wouldn't be as delicate as Israel's being. I'll tell you that.
Fair enough.
As far as I can go without getting knocked off the internet.
Yeah.
Well, I think they're attacking so many people at once that it's hard for them to focus on any one group. Like, it's not just the stuff in their own country, it's the stuff overseas. Because let's be real, like 10 years ago, this happening, they would have just automatically gotten support. But right now, it really does sound iffy on Jewish support. It really does. Like, it's not just... I'm not pro either. I think the whole situation looks shitty, but you do see politicians everywhere kind of showing their true colors in this regard, and I think the Jewish community is actually really nervous. Not all of them, like not everybody.
I don't know enough details to really take a side, but from what I can tell, everything I've heard has suggested that the Palestinians attacked and the Israelis defended themselves. If that's an accurate description of the situation, then I would be siding with Israel, because they're the victims in a sense. They're the ones who got attacked, and then they just defended themselves.
There's a prevalent thing in the West that if you are the underdog, you're right.
That's nonsense.
It is nonsense, but an awful lot of people believe that. If you're black, then everything's stacked against you. You know,
that's definitely fake. Not true.
If you're a Palestinian, everything's stacked against you. You know, it's so we must be freedom fighters and fight for our freedom.
That's nonsense. That's a stupid way of thinking.
But there's a lot of people thinking that way, man. There's a lot of
people. I mean, you want me to agree that there's a lot of stupid people in the world? I'm right there with you.
Yeah. I don't know. It's 2024 is going to be a scary time.
Yeah.
This is the first time I can remember in my entire life where I've thought something really bad's going to happen. You know, I got a real feeling, not like World War I and World War II or Vietnam or any of those were a joke. It's just that I feel like there's something on a larger scale is in the offing if we're not careful.
The technology has advanced since those times. So a similar conflict would be more devastating because we've got more powerful weaponry in 2024 than we did in 1939.
And we got people who are more than happy to use it, because we even had people who were happy to use it back then. Yeah. It's not like Hiroshima and Nagasaki didn't happen.
It's also over similar problems that we kind of have right now. Like right now, we're in a food shortage in a lot of places. Like you talk to or look at channels from different places and even just the US, and you guys do have food deserts, but those food deserts are almost created. You can tell that they are absolutely being created. And I hate to break it to the authorities, but what starts a lot of civil wars is food shortages. And if you look at Europe, it's not just the French, it's not just the Germans, it's not just the Dutch. The farmers are actually on strike, and rightfully so, because if you piss off the farmers, you'll fuck everybody over.
Yes, this is true.
And they're struggling. They are struggling. Like they are screaming that they can't handle what they're being put through. And we have people in the cities who are like, well, they could just get a new job. Who the hell do you think is going to feed you? Oh, the poor people in the other country. The poor people in the other countries are fleeing their countries.
Yeah.
So they aren't going to feed you either. So the food shortage is going to it's going to hit all of us. Like, honestly, I told Sora about how, and I mean, it didn't last for very long, but like I had a month where we had Smucker's jam that was 500 millimeters. It was $10, $10.99. I mean, it's just jam, but like jam is one of those things you stock up in a cupboard because it lasts for a year or two.
I think the best flavor of jam is deaf comedy.
But yeah, no, it's not just one thing. It's like a lot of things. So,
But no, going after the food, like if there's food shortages, you're in a big problem. You need to fix that. And going after farmers is a pretty good way of ensuring that you will have food problems down the line.
Well, they talk about limiting food production because it causes climate change.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, if everyone starves to death, then you don't have to worry about climate change anymore.
Well,
because everybody's dead.
Well, one thing like V Monroe points out all the time is these people who want to save the planet also say you shouldn't have kids. Then who are we saving the planet for?
Good point.
Like, what's the point? Like, if no one's supposed to have kids, then what's the point of saving the planet? No one's going to be here to use it.
I'm saving the planet for the deer and the bears.
I think the thing they're not telling you is we're saving the planet for the elite.
Yes. I think that is the point V is subtly making, is that the WEF crowd, it's okay for them to have kids, you understand. It's the peasantry that doesn't deserve to reproduce.
Well, a lot of men don't get that opportunity either. So.
Yeah, but I think it's different. Like, men don't typically reproduce because the way that human sexuality is structured, it's like no one is forcing men to be unable to reproduce. It's just we're the disposable sex. So, I mean...
But we've been on a downslope in the West for a lot longer than the last couple of years.
40 years.
Yeah.
40.
It's been a really, really strong downslope. And it's not just America. It's everywhere that you consider Western.
Yeah, it's the West. Everybody in the West. And Japan.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not certain, but I'm pretty sure that of the three of us, none of us have kids.
Yep. I sure don't.
I know for a fact that Hammer doesn't, because he's taken surgical steps to ensure that he doesn't.
Well, I didn't take those surgical steps when I was 18. I took those surgical steps when I was 26. So there's a possibility.
Yeah.
Someone didn't tell me anything, and it could be somebody running around out there that I don't know about. But
maybe. But typically, if there's a chance they can get money out of the father, they'll tell you. Then they're going to be like, "Hey, give me money. Give me child support."
Yeah, I was a little more reckless in my youth before I got a vasectomy. But
yeah, I mean, everyone was. But that's my reasoning for why I'm 99% sure that there are no little Terrys running around the world. If there were, I'm almost certain that the mother would be knocking on my door saying, "Money, please."
Well, there was this one girl who was seeing me and somebody else at the same time, and have a feeling that she selected him, and I got away scot-free. That's what I have a feeling. That's what happened. So she was covered by the other person, and I'm not entirely sure it's his. So,
well, maybe there is Hammer Jr. running around.
Maybe there is. God help him.
And Frosted is pretending you're his dad.
Me to tell you.
And I'm not at all meaning to pick on you, Hammer, because maybe you
pick
got
on me.
well, because I mean, you know, if that's actually true, sure, you got free of the child care, but that child lost out on a father.
No, I got someone else as a father. He's okay.
Yeah. Men are interchangeable. It's fine.
As long as he has one, it doesn't really matter who it is.
Yeah. I mean, as long as the guy loves him, that's the important thing.
That is indeed the most important thing.
Yeah, I'm sure he thinks it's his, so I'm sure he's all invested.
I'm just letting you know, Hammer, as a kid who was adopted, yes, I think about my mom. I've also thought an awful lot about my dad.
Yeah.
Do I bother them? No, because I hope that they're having a good life. I don't actually bother them. But
Gunsky in chat is saying recklessness is biologically selected for, especially if you're named Eric. I don't think recklessness so much as risk taking, because you have to take risks to succeed. And so if it was not biologically selected for, then, we'd make no progression. But being reckless and being open to like taking on risk is different. Taking on intelligent risks is, the way you succeed as a species, not just charging headlong into every fight that you come across.
Yeah, Kiradam's right. The birth rate for Africa in 2023 was down 1.27% from 2022. So
Plan is
even
working. I mean, sorry, what?
yeah, so even they're in a precarious position too. So I think it's a lot worse for Western countries, especially
Oh, by far.
the USA. I'm not sure how we compare to Canada or some of the other Western countries, but I think America's really getting hit the hardest.
Yeah. I don't know how the individual countries relate to each other in terms of like Australia, Canada, America, but compared to somewhere like Africa, okay, sure, Africa's on a decline, nowhere near like what like the West is experiencing.
Yeah. I think our social structure is putting extra pressure on, because there are things in our social structure here that aren't as prevalent. Not that they don't exist, but they're not as prevalent in other countries. Like feminism is just, it's a huge weight here, but I don't see it very much in the UK.
Well, when it comes to things like Africa, I remember back when the National Geographic wasn't political because, Suzuki wasn't up his own ass all the time. They did do a program on that. And they said part of the reason that Africa is on the decline when it comes to the population is because their lives are getting better. Their healthcare was getting better. Their cities are getting better. Like a lot of the images that we see of African cities aren't really accurate. Like they're actually a lot better than they used to be. So if you know that your birth rate's going up, you're more inclined to have less kids.
Yeah. Gunsky's saying he's smart, but he doesn't have kids. The ones getting laid with no plans are biologically speaking onto something. That's basically the plot of Idiocracy.
I'm not going to be able to help you out, Kiradam. I'm fixed, so I can't do anything for you.
I'm on the other side of the world, so even if I wanted to, there's no real way of making that happen. So.
Well, at least women are still interested in having babies. I sit on Twitter and I watch the women scrolling by, all of them saying, "Oh, he's so cute, I want to have a baby." Like, okay.
We want to have a baby, but like if you were let's take Canada as an example, because Canada is massive, but we fit in your closet when it comes to our population.
Yes.
But the reason we've had a population increase is honestly because of the flood of immigration. It's forced. It's not natural. We were probably building natural families just like everybody else, but with everything going crazy, like look at our system. We're not like we just got nominated as the top country for assisted suicide.
Well,
not something to be nominated for, actually.
I mean, there's a reason that Canadian healthcare is the meme that it is.
It's not just things like that. It's like, well, job expectancy here. My province is well known for engineers and oil and gas. So when you have that as a goal, yeah, you have a lot of kids. You want kids. You want that as a goal. That's something to achieve. It's like being a doctor or a lawyer, or a leader. It's actually a good role. But yeah, they've butchered the shit of our industry. Like kids don't necessarily want to go be engineers anymore. They don't really want to go work on those oil fields. But here's the thing. They still need that shit to exist. Even those electric cars still need gas to kind of function. It's been a natural decline up here for job expectancy. So, I can't support a family anyway. So why have kids?
And Cannibalistic Wizard over on Rumble says he'd love to have kids, but he's fat, ugly, and has more physical and mental health issues than you can shake a stick at. To which I simply replied, then you'll need money and lots of it.
We also had what looked like officials wanting us to get used to raising families in apartments. And I get that, you know, you go up and down in history, and we have times when the poor are supposed to cluster together. Nobody wants to do that because it's unsanitary. You don't raise kids in that. Like when you see kids in that kind of situation, like I'm not an angel, but I don't have kids, you know? But if I have kids, I have to be a hell of a lot more careful in my home life, you know, because it's about them.
Yeah.
It's not about me. So when I see somebody like a Shani, I'm not surprised when she has her kids removed.
Yeah, I don't know who Shani is, but
Oh, she was followed by RØDE Alex a lot.
yeah. I stopped watching Alex a long time ago.
But the few things that I saw from her was enough for me to realize I didn't miss much, Terry.
Yes, I mean, I know nothing about this lady other than for a while, I read Alex was kind of obsessed with her, and
She's gross. Yep. She's gross. You're not missing much.
No, right. And Katie's saying she doesn't know how she does as a parent. I know how I do as a parent. Terrible. Because kids would stop me from playing video games, and I would resent them for that. So
it's like, do you even have a pet? And if the answer is no, probably no for kids too.
Oh yeah, I don't want a pet.
If you had kids, you had somebody automatically there to play video games against.
Yeah, but that's what Adam and Tira for. I don't need to a kid that I'm
Tira for.
I don't need a human living with me that I have to be responsible for. I can just beat up Tira and Adam when it's scheduled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've only had in my life. I've only had two pets. One when it was my parents' pet was a dog, and my own pet that I ever had was a cat. And after I lost my cat, I was like, I can't go through that again. So I've never had a pet since.
Yeah, I had pets when I was a kid, but once I moved in with my dad, like this is like when I was 20. I mean, we lived in you guys would call it a condominium. I always have to try and remember your terminology, but yeah, we wouldn't be allowed to have a pet here. Like it's too small for a dog or a cat. I could have like a fish, I guess, or a bird. But there's plenty of birds outside. I don't need one in here as well.
Ben, did you ever have a pet? Do you have one now?
I don't have one now, but I grew up always having some kind of a pet. My dad was always a curious fellow, so sometimes it was a turtle, sometimes it was frogs. We did have a dog, never a cat because he thinks they're snotty. They love him, but he thinks they're snotty.
He's not particularly wrong. They are pretty snotty.
We've had snakes. We had ferrets.
Ferrets, really?
Yeah. Ferrets are fun. Ferrets are fun, but
ferrets smell.
Yes, they do. A lot of places, especially back during when we got them, kind of tend to remove the glands.
Mm-hmm.
But not everybody necessarily does that anymore. It's just a training your pet thing. Like it's like cats can spray too.
Yeah. Every time I hear ferrets, I immediately think of Kefki.
Yeah.
Can't help myself.
I always try to keep clips of the cutest ferrets I find for it too.
Well, yeah. I mean, the two are fairly intrinsically linked in my mind as well. It's the same with well, I was going to say poly and otters or reject and ducks.
Oh yeah, that's true too. I've got a meme that I think I got it from her, like very early in our relationship. I have it on my phone. It's a picture of a duck, and it's like almost at point blank range. The duck is like covers the entire photograph, and it has a tagline underneath that says, "Show me your bread." It's a great meme. It's on my phone. I don't have it anywhere but my phone. Or show your bread. That's what it is. But it's like a point blank picture, like a mafia kind of thing, you know.
That's cute.
Yeah. But yeah, the dog I had when I was growing up was a boxer, and my mom named her Lady. And my
Aw.
parents, my parents had once they retired and moved to where I'm at now, they got a Doberman Pinscher, and she lived 11 years with them as a guard dog.
Yeah.
And then she passed, and the next door neighbor had to move into a condo, so he had to get rid of his dog. So he gave his dog to them. So they had a dog. Meanwhile, I was living in Virginia during all of this, and I had my cat Gracie. I had her ever since she was this little puff of fur. So she was mine for her entire life. That's been my total.
Every time I hear the name Gracie, I think, say goodnight, Gracie.
Yeah, George and Gracie, right? That's the comedy team. Usually, you don't see that from people who are significantly younger than me.
Well, I mean, I've never actually seen the show, but I know the line because it's like such a melodic line that it's like carried forward separate of the.
The minute he said the quote, I was like, yeah, I remember that quote.
Yeah. So, I mean, apparently, because like in my head it goes, "Say goodnight, Gracie. Good night, Gracie," but apparently that was never actually said on the show. That was like added later when people like misremembered or like thought it was like the obvious follow-up, so they just kind of mentally added it.
Right. You see a lot of that. There was a whole thing with Star Trek. Yeah, the whole thing with Star Trek. Beam me up, Scotty. Kirk never actually said that.
Yeah, same with Luke, I'm your father.
Yeah.
Darth Vader never said that.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of lines that everyone misremembers.
Yeah, it's no, I'm your father, not Luke. He says, no, I'm your father. Same thing with Kirk. He says, Scotty, beam me up. But he never says, beam me up, Scotty. And there's one episode where he didn't even say, beam me up to get beamed up. I think we talked about this before.
Yeah.
Yeah, where he just said, just get me the hell out of here. And they beam him up. So there's a lot of those kind of things. But
it is kind of cool, though. That, like, because it's one thing to misremember, but it seems like everyone has collectively remembered the wrong thing, but the same wrong thing. Like, it's not like I thought it was Luke, I am your father, and you thought it was, hey, I'm your father. Everyone has collectively agreed on Luke, I am your father, which is the same wrong thing that everyone like thinks it is.
Yeah,
it's like the Berenstain effect. It makes you feel like you're in an alternate universe.
Berenstain or Berenstain, and it's always been Stain, but everyone thinks it's Berenstain.
I think that's because most people don't speak German or Germanic.
And a lot of people thought Mandela was dead, but he turned out to be alive.
Well, that's what it's named after, the Mandela effect, because people thought he died in prison and he just didn't.
Yeah. A lot of those kind of things. The thing is, you're right, though, that everyone believes the wrong thing.
But it's the same wrong thing is the thing that's amazing.
Yeah. It kind of makes you wonder if one person said it and it just spread to everybody. That's why they all misremember it.
Yeah. I think for a lot of them, there'll be like a book where it's like name something similar or... I forget which one it was, but there's one where there was a book and an autobiography, and that's the one. Like, people remember the name of the autobiography and think it's the actual quote, even though it's not.
Right. There's probably a listing of all the things that people misremember. Somewhere on the internet, you know.
Just do a search for Mandela effect. You'll find a list in no time.
Yeah.
One of the common ones is the monocle on the Monopoly guy. He never had one.
Right.
Everyone remembers him with one.
That's because they think of the monocle guy on the Planters Peanuts.
Mm-hmm. Oh, whatever they're getting confused with, Monopoly guy never had one.
Right. Everyone knows the Planters Peanut guy who did have one, and they get them mixed. I think that's where that comes from.
I think it's also... if you ask someone, does he have a monocle, and like they don't know, if they're just thinking back in their mind, he seems like the kind of person who would have one.
Right.
So they kind of just assume, yeah, he probably did.
Does he have a top hat?
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure now.
No, I'm not sure either. But the Planters Peanut guy did. You have to look it up. Look that one up too.
Yes, I'm looking it up now. Yes, so Mr. Monopoly does have a top hat, but no monocle.
Did you play a lot of board games when you were young? Did you play Monopoly and all that kind of stuff?
Me? Yes, against myself.
What?
I would set up Monopoly and play as all 4 characters, and then just see which player went bankrupt first. Because no one wanted to play with me, but I wasn't just going to not play, so I played against myself.
Well, I guess it's all basically chance and luck, so there's not really... You're not really playing against yourself. You're playing against chance. 4 people against chance.
I guess, but...
It's not like cards. You didn't know what the other guy has. Regardless of what the other guy has, it doesn't impact your decisions at all.
But I do play games against myself where, like, I will, like, look at the cards for each player, but I will do my best to compartmentalize. So if I'm looking at player 1's cards, I'm not thinking, okay, I know player 3 has this card, so I'm trying to say, look at the board objectively, what would I do in this situation, rather than trying to utilize the knowledge I have of each player's hands.
I don't know if I would have the discipline for that.
I mean, it's just muck around. And if I make a mistake, if I accidentally utilize information that I'm not supposed to, nothing happens. It's just like, okay. So, I mean, that player gets an advantage, but they're all played by me anyway. So what's the matter?
Yeah, I don't think my brain would. I don't think I had the discipline to do that. I think if I was put in a position to make a choice, I would still make the choice that's proper for the table, but there would be a little guy in the back of my head saying, don't do that, because this guy has this, don't do that. And I would be second guessing myself, and I don't know which way I would come out with that. I don't know if I have the discipline.
There's some games where you absolutely can't do that, because if you think of scissors, paper, rock, right? You can't look at, you can't set one player's thing and then objectively decide what the other player... At that point, you're basically deciding, does this player win, lose, or draw?
Right.
So anything that requires simultaneous reveals of information, I can't play against myself, because I can't... knowing what the other person plays, and I did it like 10 seconds ago, is too much of a direct influence.
You see all the time with people who are playing chess. They'll play one side and they'll spin the cable around and then play the other side. I'm thinking to myself, how could you do that? Because you know what the other guy is doing, because you're the other guy. Yeah.
It's very hard to separate, because what will end up happening is that you will usually end up being one player, usually player 1, that I kind of subconsciously think of as me and not opponents. Like I tend to think of it as like player 1 versus the other 3. So I think on some subconscious level, I do kind of want player 1 to win more than the others. But like I said, it's all for fun anyway. So if I accidentally bias the results in favor of one particular instance of myself, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Well, see, you're not really playing against other people when you're playing Monopoly. You're playing against the chance of the roll of the dice and where you land and what options you get. So you're trying to... What your attempt at trying to win doesn't really influence anyone else's attempt at trying to win.
No, I would contest that, because I would say at its core, Monopoly is a negotiation game. And if you are able to say, I will give you this property that you really want, but you've got to give me this in return. If you're good at negotiating, you will win Monopoly, because at its core, that's what the game is. It's a negotiation game.
I don't even do that when I play Monopoly. I don't negotiate with anybody. I just follow the cards and roll the dice.
If you've ever watched somebody who's professional play it, they're still playing it like a chess game. They're 8 moves ahead. It's not just luck. Like, that does influence a thing, sure, but you're talking finances plus luck. No,
but like there's obviously an element of randomness to Monopoly. You're using dice, but at its like basic level, Monopoly is a negotiation game, and if you're a better negotiator, you will win. Unless your opponent is Hammer, who is just like not going to negotiate at all.
I've never played the game negotiating at any point with anyone ever. Every time I've played Monopoly, there was never any attempt to negotiate by anybody.
But then
This is the first time I'm hearing that you do this.
But then the game goes too long, because how are you meant to get a set of 3 if you're not trying to trade with your opponents? Like,
no, it's attrition. It's running out of money and running out of property.
Yeah, but the whole point is that, like, I have the two of the light blues. You have the one I need, but I have 2 of the yellows, and
I need.
Yeah, but then we can't just trade because one is more valuable than the other. So it becomes, what are you going to throw in to sweeten the deal to make me willing to trade a yellow for a light blue? And like, that's the game. The game is the negotiation. The moving around the board is the mechanical way it facilitates the negotiation.
I'm just saying that every time I've played Monopoly, there's never been, not only has there not been negotiation, but there was never the idea that negotiation was part of the game. Every time I've played with anybody else, we just played the rolls that we rolled and picked the cards that we card, and that was it. There was no, I'll give you this for that, or none of that even existed.
That would make the game take so much longer if you didn't negotiate at all.
Yeah, it does. It takes a long time.
But yeah, I do think that a big part of why people hate Monopoly is they don't play by the rules. Because most people don't bother reading the rules; they just assume that
is negotiation in the rules?
Yeah, you're supposed to trade houses and shit.
Yeah,
really?
Yeah. And
you're probably right then.
Another rule that almost no one actually uses: if you land on a property and decide not to buy it, it goes up for auction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it goes up for auction, and if you land on a place that has property on it, you owe the person who owns the property money. Yeah,
so like if I land on, Mayfair or whatever you call Boardwalk, I think, in America.
Yeah.
But like if I land on it and I don't have the $400 to buy it, it goes up for auction, and someone could end up getting it for like $50. If no one has the money or no one is willing to bid on it, they could get it like for $50, or they might have to pay $800 for it, depending on how the auction goes. So yeah, the auction is not optional. You are forced by the rules to put every property up for auction if you don't buy it on the spot, and that speeds the game up tremendously.
I guess I just never played by the rules.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but like most people don't, is my point.
Yeah.
And that's why everyone says the game takes forever, is because they're not doing it properly. They're changing the rules to make it take longer without even realizing that that's what they're doing.
I guess for people it's okay to go long. It's just you're having fun for that much longer.
Yeah. I mean, if you're fine with the length of the game, then keep doing what you're doing. I'm just saying the biggest complaint I've heard about Monopoly is that it takes forever, and the people who make that complaint are usually not playing by the rules, and they're changing the rules in ways that make it take much, much longer, which is like why they're getting bored.
So your property names are different than the ones in America?
Yes.
All of them?
Yeah.
Wow. What about Canada? Are you using American, or does Canada have its own?
We usually get the American one, but you can get Canadian ones. You can actually get Monopoly boards that are based off of.
Yeah, but no, if you just buy a generic Monopoly board in Australia, you'll get the one with the English, as in like the UK, the English streets. And Gunsky is correct. There are limited houses and hotels. You get, I believe, 32 houses and 12 hotels. If there's not enough in the stock, you cannot buy them.
Well, that would seem very real life, right? Makes sense.
But like a lot of people will be like, "Oh, we ran out of hotels. That's okay. We'll use, matchsticks or something, or a coin." But you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to be confined by the number of houses and hotels that the game provides you.
Is there a limit to the number of houses or hotels you can put on a property?
One.
No,
you can only put one hotel. Yeah, you can only put one hotel on something.
Oh, okay.
It goes 4 houses, then you remove the 4 houses and replace it with a hotel. And that's it. Once it's got a hotel, it's maximized. You can't go any further.
Wow. I haven't played in a long time, but we played with completely the wrong rules then because
Yeah, most people do. Most people don't actually sit down and read the rules. Most people are just taught by like a parent or a sibling, and they're teaching what they were taught. And somewhere along the way, house rules kind of just got accepted as the way you play it, and no one bothers reading the official rules because they think they know how to play.
read what Jack said in YouTube. Canadian Monopoly.
Oh,
Properties are free, but 10 moves and the government takes everything.
Yes. And to clarify, Mayfair is in the English Monopoly, not the Australian one. You can get an Australian one with like Australian cities and stuff, but if you just go to like buy Monopoly, like the most generic Monopoly from like Target or something, you'll get the one with English English streets.
Literally in England.
Yeah. There'll be like Old Kent Road. There'll be Piccadilly. All the English places. You won't have it. You can get one that has Australian names in it if you want, but like if you just buy the default, it'll be the English one.
Well, it's because you're still owned by. Never mind.
And Gunsky is saying Australian Monopoly, every space is jail. That would be funny, but fortunately, if you buy the Australian version, it is not that.
I wonder if that's just the. I mean, I gotta imagine there are other games that are local as well.
Yeah, there's so many versions of Monopoly. Like you can get Elvis Monopoly, where all the properties are named after Elvis songs. Like that's an official Monopoly product. They make that. If you want to buy it, it's for sale. Like they've got so many different versions of Monopoly that anything you want your Monopoly to be themed in, they probably already have one. And Frosty says, "Do not pass go directly to Maid." Well, no, you don't lose the game just by getting sent to jail. You don't want to replace it with Maid.
Australian Monopoly, Kings Avenue.
Yeah. I think there's like Castlereagh Street is one of the green ones.
Finders Way.
Flinders is probably
Flinders Way. I'm looking at some of the names. I don't recognize any of this.
Yeah, I mean, why would you?
Wickham Terrace. Holy crap!
Yeah.
Pitt Street.
Yeah, Pitt Street is in Sydney. The green ones are all from Sydney. They're like Castlereagh Street, Pitt Street, and Bond Street, I think, is the third one. Those are all in Sydney.
Yeah, and then the blue ones, the ones that are most expensive.
I forget what those are called.
I can't even read these. Davy Street.
Okay.
South Jamaican Place.
Okay, I'm not remembering any of those, but
I'm trying to read it, but it's tilted up on its side. I'd have to rotate it to read it. Macquarie Macquarie Street. I don't know.
Okay,
I only know ours. Boardwalk Park Place, which is funny because I've never been to Boardwalk or Park Place.
Fair enough. See, in the the English one, it's Park Lane. It's like Park Lane and Mayfair. So it's kind of cool that they stuck with the park theme for the second one.
I don't know. It's really the only games I've ever played were Clue and Monopoly are probably the only two games. I remember when I was really young, I played something called Chutes and Ladders.
It's funny because we have different names for those. In Australia, it's Cluedo. It's like Cluedo, not just Clue. Okay. And we have Snakes and Ladders as opposed to Chutes and Ladders.
Of
course, Snakes and Ladders. I'm surprised it's not Snakes and Spiders,
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, for whatever reason, they decided that you go down the snakes and up the ladder. Like, Chutes and Ladders makes much more sense because you fall down the chute and you climb up the ladder. That makes complete thematic sense. Having snakes be the thing that you fall down doesn't make any sense at all. But
That's deadly, actually. But I
that's
had
what I
that
grew
one
up
too.
with. I grew up with snakes and ladders.
I did too. Which is fair, because
you guys are weird.
if they Canadianized it, it would have been like something really dumb, like moose and ladders, which really would have made no sense.
I mean, I guess it doesn't make thematic sense, but it's easy. It's an easy visual representation because you can just draw the head of the snake and like the tail of the snake and just link them up, and it's like just a vertical or diagonal line. So it still fits. It still like works. It just doesn't make any sense why you fall down snakes.
Frosted. Jeez. Black Monopoly. As soon as you land on a property that's not worth as much.
Yeah, there goes the neighborhood.
Oh, man. That's terrible. Funny, but terrible.
That's frosted.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't really big into board games because I got to the point where I was old enough that and it was the time period where computer games started taking over, you know?
Yeah.
So I never really played that many board games to begin with.
I think it's worth noting that there's those kinds of board games that like you like play as a family, like you know, Monopoly and the Game of Life, and you know those sorts of. But there's far more involved board games, like hobbyist board games, I guess you could refer to them as, where they're much more in depth and much more interesting than just Snakes and Ladders or Monopoly.
Yeah.
So like if you look at my Board Game Geek, I don't know if it's public, but if you look at my thing on Board Game Geek, you can see all the board games I own, and like they're much more complex than roll a die and move that many spaces. There's like actual strategizing and thinking and planning and all. You know, they're like proper games. They're not just pastimes that you use to amuse kids.
Is Trivial Pursuit a board game?
Yeah, I mean, it has a board.
Yeah, but it's really not
it's a
very
trivia
much.
game.
Yeah, it's not really much mechanics to it. It's read a question, answer a question.
You still roll the die and move around the board. That determines which question you have to answer.
Yeah.
So it's still got a board game aspect to it.
Were you good at that, Trivial Pursuit?
It depends. I mean, trivia is the kind of thing you either know it or you don't.
Yeah.
Like if you ask me a question and I happen to know the answer, then I was good at Trivial Pursuit that time. If you ask me something I don't know, then I wasn't good at it that time. It's the same thing with Jackbox. Jackbox has a lot of trivia games. And if you know the answer, then yeah, you did really good that time. If you don't, you don't.
How about you, Jen? Trivial Pursuit?
Pretty much, it's the same. You either knew it or you didn't.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was never very good with Trivial Pursuit. I didn't know any of the answers to any of the questions.
Yeah, but you can learn them. Like it's just memorization. It's like
well, I mean, if you keep playing the same game, eventually you'll run into the question a second time. But
yeah,
they had versions of it that you probably would have done fine with, though, Hammer, because they had versions that were like old pop music or old movies.
Yeah.
You know,
or Star Trek
trivia. Yeah,
absolutely. No, 100%. There is a Star Trek Trivial Pursuit out there.
Oh, you guys are going to get murdered if you play that against me.
Right?
I mean, I know that Captain Kirk existed. That's kind of the summation of my
well done.
Star Trek.
Well done.
So if the question is, was there ever a character named Captain Kirk? Yes, there was.
The winner. Ding, 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 ding.
If you're going to say what was the name of this character from this, couldn't even guess.
I don't know how proud I should be of that, but everybody has their favorite thing. Trek just happens to be mine.
But I mean, if you did, adventure games from the 90s, Trivial Pursuit, I'd probably be decent at that because I played so many of them.
Right.
Or Sam and Max. Because I pick a specific game. Sam and Max, Day of the Tentacle. If you did like Day of the Tentacle Trivial Pursuit, I'll probably get much of the questions right because I know basically step by step everything you need to do to win that game.
There are people who know more, literally know a lot more about it than I do, like Blind Press.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
She knows more about Trek than I do, I think. Especially the original series. She knows more about the original series. I know more about the other variations, TNG and all that kind of stuff, but she knows the names of episodes by just suggestion. Remember
That's
that guy who did? That's the name. It's like, holy crap!
Yeah.
How do you remember that? You know?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
she's really good with it. But
Apparently, she's really good at Mortal Kombat as well, which is
I
kind of
remember-
impressive.
I remember playing Mortal Kombat as a video game back in the day on my PlayStation.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it. And time went by and I stopped playing it, got rid of my PlayStation. Then the movie came out, the first movie. And I went into the theater and there was like nobody there. And I was like, why is there nobody there? And then the movie came on and the intro song and the intro of the movie, the graphics, and all that kind of stuff just fucking blew me out of my chair. I was like, holy shit, this is fucking awesome.
Yeah. The first Mortal Kombat movie was great.
Oh my God, that was such a great movie. And then they came out with because, you know, it had Sonya in it and she was like awesome. That was what was his name? Sampras's wife?
Bridget Wilson.
Yeah, Bridget Wilson. Oh my God. Anyway.
I don't know how I remember that, but apparently it had an impact on me too.
Yeah. It's not easy to forget. We are at 10:02. Do you guys have Jen, didn't you say you had something you wanted to bring up?
Nothing really big. I was just kind of tickled that I caught a Lauren Chen stream before it got big because, you know, she's a fairly decent size YouTuber.
You mean back in the Rummy Millennial days?
Well, yeah. She
Before
just
it
has
got
I think it's just her Lauren Chen channel.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they were talking, like she was responding to, I guess the fat community has a con coming up in San Francisco, and some of the headliners are rather loosey-goosey, but she was responding to a doctor who was complaining about how taking away pop from people is human cruelty.
Oh, God.
And I just responded to that in the chat, and she highlighted it and laughed because we, you know, it was just a ridiculous thing.
Taking marijuana away from people is human cruelty?
No, taking pop.
Oh,
Like,
pop.
soft drinks. Yeah. Like
okay.
if you don't
So-
let someone drink, if you don't let someone drink Pepsi on demand, you're being cruel to them. To which I say, some people need some more cruelty in their life.
Yeah. Well, did you see the Blair White TikTok about fat influencers? Have you seen that little TikTok that
Yes,
she did?
but she's just going, yeah, she's dead.
Yeah.
He's dead. Which
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
last long because he died.
Yeah.
Which is amazing is because she's not even on TikTok. Somebody just took that a clip from her YouTube channel.
Well, that came from her YouTube channel and someone made a TikTok out of it?
Yeah, she's banned off TikTok.
Wow. So someone's making money off her.
I guess so.
Yeah, she's responded to that too. She's like, well, I mean, there's not a lot she could do on that one, but like if they want to rage at her for it, she didn't put it there.
And key evidence is I need my pop. But see, to me, that means father. Like if you refer to your pop, to me, in my head, that translates to my father, like my dad.
Yeah.
Like it does. Like I don't call soft drinks pop. I call them soft drinks.
Yeah. It's regional here in the United States, depending on where you are. Like if you're north, it's soda. But if you're Midwest, it's soda pop. But if you're south, it's pop. So even in the United States, it's under 3 different names.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like to me, they're just soft drinks. I don't call them soda or pop or soda pop.
Yeah. Yeah. There's people in Southwest, like California and Mexico and stuff like that, that refer to all sodas as Coke.
Mm-hmm.
That's a
Okay.
bit silly.
That is silly.
Like if you specifically want Coca-Cola, do you have to say the full name to get what you want? That's dumb.
Yeah. I mean, if you are in Southern California and you say you want a Coke, you won't get Pepsi. You'll get Coke. You have to say what you want specifically.
Yeah.
Or you get. It's crazy.
No, and Cynic just said that in chat. It's fine unless you call them all Coke. Yeah, that is nonsense. That doesn't make any sense. That's like going to McDonald's and all the burgers are just called burger. It's like like that's insane.
That's funny.
Well, it was one of those rare moments where I was channeling, like, my brother isn't the only person in my life who's got diabetes. Like, I know a fair few people who have diabetes, and yeah, this lady in this video is describing a diabetic spiral. So I just responded channeling somebody else's. You know.
You can have a glass of Coke maybe once a week, an 8-ounce, 12-ounce glass,
Yeah.
and it's no big deal. But if you're drinking 4 or 5 glasses a day,
That's too much.
Yeah.
I mean, not only just the weight you're going to put on, but your poor pancreas.
Yes.
It's one of those things where, like, I kind of get it. Like, I don't have an addiction to pop, but when I do have a soda, it's ironic because you feel like you're less thirsty from drinking it, but you've actually dehydrated yourself. It's weird.
See, I don't believe that, because there was a time when I drank nothing but Coke, like literally nothing but Coke. So if I was losing more water than I was gaining, I would have died. Like if every time I drank a can of Coke was a net negative to my hydration levels, I wouldn't have been able to do that for like 6 months.
No, you get water from other places too. So even if you eat solid food, there's still water in solid food.
Yeah, I guess, but like, I'm not, like, if you dehydrate yourself, I don't believe it, because it just doesn't track with my like lived experience, to quote the left.
Have you ever been medically dehydrated? Like you had to go to the hospital because you've been dehydrated? You ever had that happen?
No.
Wow. It is an experience you won't forget. It's like being drunk and having an upset stomach at the same time. You can't stand up. You're in a mental fog. It's a really weird experience. It's not pleasant in any way.
No, it doesn't sound it.
Yeah, you have no power to anything. You barely stand up, that kind of stuff. I went to the hospital. I drove myself. I walked into the hospital. I didn't manage to make it to the emergency room, but I wasn't far from it. And I walked in and I fell at the entrance, and somebody just happened to walk by and are you okay? And brought a wheelchair around and took me into the ER. And they said, you are dehydrated beyond belief. He says he was like pinching skin. The skin was not responding. It was just staying pinched. Yeah. He's like, you're in trouble. So yeah,
I think I'm just not going to go to the doctors ever again.
I don't make the doctors sound very good, do I?
Well, not only that, but I know what happened to my father, and he had a whole bunch of terrible experiences with doctors. The best he was ever treated by doctors was when he said he wanted to die. Suddenly they were very good at catering to his wishes, but when he wanted to live, not so much.
Yeah. Well, you know, I really haven't had a bad experience with a doctor. Every doctor I've ever dealt with, except for one. And I've dealt with a lot of doctors because I have a lot of problems, but everyone has made sure that I'm still alive. None of them have tried to kill me.
Well, none of them. I don't think any of them tried to kill my dad. They were just incompetent and like didn't care. So like if he had have died, that wouldn't have bothered them. It's like oh well.
Do you have a free medical thing that, or do you guys have private insurance? How does that work in Australia?
So you do pay the government for like public health, but you can get private insurance on top of that if you want it and can afford it.
But it's basically free healthcare plus you can get what you want.
Yeah. So
that response then would be typical because that's how free healthcare works. They don't care.
Yeah. That's why I don't like free healthcare. I think just abolish, except in the case of like emergencies where someone will die if they don't get immediate medical care, because then it, like, you can't kill them. Like, they're already dying. So I mean, you might as well take your chances. But
I sometimes have to agree for other reasons over the last couple of years. Like, are you finished with your thought? I'm not interrupting you.
No, you go.
So one of the things that I admit that I got a kick out of was watching abandoned, not just house videos, but buildings. And one of the things I noticed was like some of the hospitals that have been abandoned are like, they haven't been abandoned like is maybe like a couple years, but they're so stocked full of medical supplies that you would think, why didn't you take that with you? And the fact that they've just abandoned it, so now it's no longer usable, It's been abandoned. It's no longer usable, but they demand more money. And that's what I call free healthcare, is exploitive healthcare.
Yeah.
Because that stuff, they're always complaining about how expensive that shit is.
Hmm.
But
I
then,
mean, Keith is pointing out in chat, just go into a mountain of debt instead.
yeah.
American healthcare is incredibly expensive. I don't think anyone would deny that. But you get what you pay for. Like the free healthcare that I get in Australia is not worth a lot. Like I'm being overcharged by my taxes being taken and put towards this.
Well, it's funny to me how people who have free healthcare complain about free healthcare and will advocate for American healthcare, even though our healthcare is awful as well. And the people here who are Americans who have American healthcare spend all their time talking about how great free healthcare is, and it's not.
Well, no, I think American healthcare definitely has its flaws. I'm not saying that it's like the solution, not by any means. I'm just saying that I can see the value in abolishing the public healthcare, except in the case of emergencies. I think like emergency care should probably be provided. But like if you just need to see a doctor because you've got the sniffles, I don't think that should be covered by the government. Just you should be able to pay for that yourself.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at healthcare, I think I need something that's going to prevent me from dying.
Yes, exactly.
Which plan prevents me from dying? Well, that's going to be American. It's going to be expensive, but I'll live. You know, if you got liver cancer in Canada, you'll get to see a doctor in 6 months. You're dead by then. You're dead by then. So that's how I have to look at it. I don't think American healthcare is great because it's not market driven. If it was market driven, it'd be fantastic.
Yes, I agree.
But it bothers me when someone says we should have free healthcare. No, we should not have free healthcare. That's not.
You don't want.
Canada has it, you know, and they did it. Yeah, what are their taxes? How much are they paying for it? Because it's not free. It's never free. So
there is no such thing as free.
And it's not really good healthcare.
No, it's not.
If you go to, I mean, I've heard this from multiple sources. If you go to a Canadian doctor with something wrong, you know, they're just as likely to offer you the option of ending your life. You know, I mean, it's a joke, it's a meme, but there is some truth to that. Yeah,
it's not so much that it's
yeah, I feel that way too.
It's not so much that, it's just it's more that what I've heard preached or spoken of that would have been a better concept, because the problem is that both aren't really necessarily working. Both have elements that are kind of necessary, but both aren't really working. Like the reason we have free public health care, and they always bring it up, is it's about the poor. Well, why can't you separate the two? Like part of what I've been saying is like, okay, well, if medical care and medical supplies are so expensive that you can just leave them behind in full-on hospitals, you can just abandon it, that's a sign that we have an overinflated community that can just do something like that. You know, like our free healthcare is crappy. Like you are waiting for a long time, sure, but what you get is bare
minimum. It's not even good at the end, yeah.
And a lot of the things that you go in for, you really don't need to go in for. Like, okay, yeah, every once in a while a cold will get bad, but you don't need to go in to see a doctor for every cold. You don't.
No, not every
not every sniffle is serious. So you know why?
Yeah, the only time I ever went to the doctor because I had a cold was when I wanted a medical certificate to get out of work.
But it's when you see that it's being exploited, you can tell that there's something wrong there. And like private isn't necessarily perfect either, but there's sense to it. There is sense to having a proper sector that has their own private, because it actually fixes a lot of the problems.
But Keegan is saying we charge mothers to go through the pain of childbirth and to hold their newborns. I mean, the doctor that delivers the baby needs to be paid. You want him to do it for free? I mean, you got to pay people for the services they provide. I don't have a problem with that.
prices are out of control. That's really the problem.
Yeah. No, the prices are fucked up, and that's from what I can tell is that the insurance companies are largely to do with that.
I take
And like as
Lipitor.
you,
I take Lipitor for my heart. I have my Lipitor tablets in front of me, and I have 60 tablets. They're 40 milligrams, and I paid $12 for this supply. If you were to buy this on the open market, it's over $1,000.
that's a lot of money.
I have good insurance.
Yeah, and keep it saying it's a lot though. Yeah, it is a lot, but doctors need to be paid. You can't demand that anyone work for free.
Even in free healthcare, not everything is free anyway. Like all the stuff that you're listing, Kiverdam, not all of that is free. Like a lot of the checkups are free, yes, like those could be free. But like if you're paying for like the medication or if you need anything extra, a lot of that you have to pay for. Because the doctors need to get paid, and the hospitals need to make money because they can't function. To
keep it in, I thought doctors' employees pay them, not the patients. Sure, but then they charge the customer, so it ends up being the patient that pays anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've gone for considerably longer than we probably should.
Could have, yeah.
Yes,
All right,
so I think maybe we should wrap it up a bit.
Yeah, I agree. Jen, you have anything else?
No, nothing big.
All right, well, we'll get out of here then. Thanks, fam, as always, for chatting with us tonight. If you can't wait for the next Wednesday show, remember, the minions are live every evening, including weekends, with most shows starting around 11:30 p.m. Eastern, 7 days a week. Host and start times are linked in the description down below. Don't forget about the Rumble pre-show. That stream usually starts around 8:30, about half an hour before YouTube does. We'll be back next Wednesday at 9 p.m. as usual. Hope you guys enjoyed the show, and we'll see you again next week. Have a great night, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Have a good one, guys.